now we're going to be moving to Howard Hitch. He's an accountant with many years of experience. And I have a question here that relates to Jacob questions. So I have a lot of small business owners that they're part of payroll. You know how when they grow the companies, they are part of payroll. So, and then they were advised by their bankers of their business advisors to kind of resign and then apply for the unemployment insurance. So that's going to be a question for Tom, for Bob, and for Howard. So what do you think about it? Like I'm like the founder of the business, right? And I have a paycheck from my business. And since I have a paycheck from the business and I cannot afford to have that, so stop the paycheck and then apply for the paycheck insurance, the unemployment insurance. What do you think?
So somebody who is an owner of a small business that's drawing salary, and that business is basically shut down because of the virus, would be eligible to apply for unemployment insurance. And under this act, unemployment insurance now is for a 39-week period rather than a 26-week period, which is in most states, and it will be up to $600 a week in benefits. So yes, the owner can apply for unemployment insurance, assuming that business doesn't have the ability to pay that salary. So small business owners are required to take reasonable compensation in the past, and that's how they would base the application for unemployment benefits. But as we all alluded to, that the PPP program is a good step to get started with. The question is how many weeks it's going to take to receive PPP benefits while this company's closed, or the store is closed, or the restaurant is closed, the florist is closed. So many businesses are closed as you drive up and down the streets.
So, and then I read on the new law that if you apply for the PPP, then you can pay your employees, and then, but no more than 100,000. No more than 100,000 a
It's
year.
$100,000 employee.
Yes.
Yeah. So nobody could earn more than $100,000 in salary, annual salary.
Okay, so I have some questions here in our chat. Hold on. I have another information that's, okay. I have to, okay, so I have a question from Nico here. It says, why would PPP be better than unemployment if the company doesn't have much overhead besides employees?
Well, the PPP could turn into a grant or a gift where it doesn't have to be repaid, although unemployment insurance is not paid by the company. So it's a good question.
It's a great question. And
good question. I would think that businesses that are still open would apply for the PPP. The businesses that are closed, cannot afford to support payroll of any sort, would have their employees go on unemployment insurance.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Howard. That's what I read, and actually it makes sense. What the federal government wants is for people to continue receiving a paycheck and their benefits.
Open, right?
Exactly, because what is gonna harm our economy is the unemployment rate, and we don't want that. And the federal government don't want that. That's what they say, please apply first for the PPP, which is a great opportunity. It's up to $10 million. Then, as Howard mentioned, it works, at the beginning, it would work like a loan, but it's not a loan, because at the end, it's going to be converted to a grant, and it's going to be forgiven if you say, I pay my people. And this,
but it's only for the 8-week period of time, of course.
Yes. only for a period of time. But I mean, what I'm thinking is they can apply first for this, the PPP,
Mhm.
8-week period of time. And then meanwhile, they will be working with the SBDCs to get the $50,000 zero interest, and that goes to 12 months.
Yep. Yep.
And then if if they need more money, they can apply for the $10,000 that Bob mentioned.
Mhm.
And I don't know if they can apply for the disaster relief 7A loan. Bob, what do you think?
So some of the tie-ins here, everything's related to purpose, right? So if you want to keep your employees employed, um, the bridge loan early on will help you. There's no principal, no payments. That's the bridge loan Tom was talking about. The PPP loan, again, will encompass that payroll cost. The EIDL, the EIDL loan, that loan has to be for a different purpose. You can't have two loans for the same purpose. You can't pay people with two loans from the SBA in two different places. So again, the PPP loan is really directed at the people and the paychecks and personnel costs. If you truly need other monies outside of that, then I would go over to the EIDL disaster relief loan. And again, at the same time, what you started with, Connie, the whole key now is to try to figure out how we're going to come out of this on the backside and be prepared during that 8-week period. Not really worry about having unemployment for 39 weeks. The goal really is to figure out how we can start getting ourselves back to normal, whatever that's going to be in the long run.
One more question. What if you let go of, I had to let go of my employees due to this episode, and for me to get other employees, would that cover to get future employees? I mean,
That's a good question. So they want you to hire back the ones you had. So that's where furlough comes in. And I guess Howard can tell us the difference at some point about letting go or furlough or however you want to do that. But the end result is if you look at that application, there's a number that you put in there of employees and of payroll costs. At the end of the year, to get it granted, you would have to have a similar number. They didn't say in the legislation that it has to be the similar or same body person, right? So the idea is to have people in general. So if you had to let go of some folks and they moved back to Atlanta with their family, and you hired new folks at the same cost and rate doing the same job, and at the end of this you have the same, it seems like, and again, we haven't seen the details on what the forgiveness is going to be, but that's how the grant would work, and it would forgive that. So that's the concept, is to keep everyone employed, but if you hadn't, having people employed by the end of this 8-week period is going to, or towards the end of the year, is going to be the key.
Yes, and actually, I like what Bob said before, bring those employees back and then put them to do something that you need. We know that we cannot be out and about, so those employees could be doing some research for the company from their homes, or they could be helping you to put together the social media strategy, find ways for them to be occupied and to innovate what they are with the business. This is a time for everybody to work on the business. Now, with the benefits that the government is giving to the small business owners, then you can feel relaxed that you can pay your people, but at the same time, you will give them opportunity for them to learn some other skills that they didn't have time before to do so. So take advantage of these programs. This is amazing. I think I see a lot of opportunities that can happen for businesses. So this is just amazing. It's a matter of just keeping calm and just applying for the programs and keep in touch with us. We're here for you. Okay, so do we
Question for Bob, Connie?
I
have a question for Bob, please. Sure. So Bob, it goes back to this average monthly payroll that's on the Paycheck Protection Program application form. So based on what you were saying and the fact that they're going to look at it at the end of the year, when we go back for a 12-month period, there are some commercial jobs that we were on at the time. So we had,
Seasonality, which
pardon?
you would call seasonality, right? Seasonality
Correct.
goes up and down.
Correct. And I'm pulling them from the actual paychecks report because I want to be transparent and I want to have those things match, but I don't want to take more, like you said, if it's going to be forgiven at the end. So what would your recommendation be?
So that's why they're asking for an average. So basically it's the average of the rolling 12 months. That's how they're going to set the loan amount. So it's an average number. So it'll take into consideration the peaks and valleys, especially in contracting or in seasonality. And there's
but let's say if normally we have 10 employees and there was a period of time when we were finishing up a large commercial project and we had a payroll with 25 people on it at that time, that's not going to come back. We're not going to have that seasonal work in this next 12-month period, likely. So should I just adjust the numbers accordingly?
So there hasn't been all of the details given to us on the forgiveness side for all business situations yet. It's very similar. There's some companies that have 20 different LLCs and sub companies and different tax ID numbers with different associated partners. We're not exactly sure how that's all going to come out either. So we're trying to do the best of our ability on the front end, calculate the average of the last 12 months, and on the back end, hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have the actual details of that. That's the best I can do.
Yeah. So,
all right.
okay.
I'll take a 1% loan any day. Thank you.
Well, and that's, so I wasn't going to say that, but 100%, in the worst case scenario, if you had 20,000 left over because your calculation was wrong, it's a 1% loan. Yeah. So as you were saying, as we said before, all this energy and earning work, we're not going to earn a lot of money at the bank anyway on this because it will only be the latent piece of that loan at 1% in the future. So
I have a question here in our chat from Bethany. She's asking, I have a very small business. I, as the owner, get a draw. I don't have any actual employees. Can I be eligible for the PPP? I have myself to pay as well as rent and utilities.
Self-employed people, sole proprietorships are eligible. And you do the calculation just like any other business owner. I talked to one yesterday, and I think his calculation comes out to $55,000. Now, that's a lot. He has 3 employees. But again, he's part of that payroll. So yes.
Yes, and actually, I read that realtors, contractors, freelancers like web developers, they can take advantage of this, or the unemployment insurance too. So, and the SBA website will have more information about it. So I have another question here, that startups that we're getting ready to hire. If a company that was in the hiring process but stopped because of the pandemic, is there any solution for those companies to move forward with hiring?
Well, I'm sure they can hire all the people that they want to hire right now. They would not be participating in the PPP loan. Again, if you're hiring people today, it's because there's a future demand that is after the pandemic, and that's what you would set your staffing level at, in my estimation. So, I don't know. It really is going to be the rolling average of the last 12 months is what we'll use as the loan amount, and then they'll be forgiven on the backside. Future hires are not part of this specific legislation that I can see. Again, read more in the SBA website.
Yeah. So what my answer to that question, especially for startups, will be they can apply for the unemployment insurance. Right, Howard? What do you think? And I believe the unemployment
Well,
insurance is,
if they don't have any, if they don't have people on payroll, they're not going to, you know, these are people that are not employed. Is, I believe, the question. The question is that they're going to be hiring people going forward.
yeah,
Those people can't be put on unemployment insurance. They're not employees yet.
yeah. So
So
no, no.
they would look for the disaster loan. You know, where
Oh,
you
okay.
applying for the loan and go out of the PPP program.
Oh, that's a good thought, Howard. And oh, this is a great idea. Just go to the disaster. But can they apply for Tom's $50,000 if they're a startup?
Okay.
They don't. I believe that, you know, startups don't have much financials because they're startups. Tom, can they apply for your $50,000 program?
So for the bridge loan, they would have had to have been in business at least by February of this year. But again, I'll reiterate that this is a personally backed loan. So we'll still need their taxes for the last 2 years. We're still
Okay.
going to run the credit report there, and there's got to be a compelling story there that the business that they're in right now is viable, is compelling. It shows some story of an ongoing business, not just simply, you know, an aspiration, if you will. So we have to have probably more, if you do that, more in the way of a narrative to understand, is this a bridge loan that's for ongoing operations, or are we trying to fund a new startup? That probably, Bob could answer that, but that's probably not going to be approved.
Okay, Bob, what do you think? That's a tough question, right?
Yeah,
Bob,
well, I mean,
for
understand
the startups.
future employees. I mean, we all have that. So, I mean, the bank may want to hire some future employees. I don't think they can get unemployment insurance. I don't think they can get PPP. I know there's going to be a lot of folks that want to utilize these programs, but they're for specific purposes. And let's focus on the specific purposes that we're using the programs for, and for those employees that have been working and will be without a paycheck. So that's the unemployment insurance side of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's key in on the key component parts of what we're trying to do with this. If they want some business consulting and they want to understand how to, they can come to the SBDC for consulting. They can come to the incubator for consulting. They can go to their bank for consulting, and we'll help them with a real loan that they can pay back because all the money they're going to make. Sound cool?
Good. So I have another question from one of our attendees, Carlos Angel. It says, I am an owner of a holiday lighting company. My season starts on October. I usually hire the same employees. The payroll is about $70,000. Any advice to prepare for the season?
So, I mean, the advice to prepare for the season is we're going to have to wait through the summer and see how this thing goes.
Mm-hmm.
There may be a lot of employees he can hire very cheaply in October if we don't get the Payroll Protection Act out and the unemployment insurance out. So I would wait through season and see what's happening at the time. There may be additional programs we just don't know at the present time.
So, but this one, I think, like, if he was with these employees last year in October, and if the bankers are gonna look the 12 months before this month, they might see those employees on the October P&L. So what do you think?
You have to sign an affidavit that says you are affected by the coronavirus to get this money. So it's a key. Just if they're not employed because of the coronavirus, you can get the money.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not employed because there's no more lights to put up, you can't get it. So let's focus on the keys, which is they've been affected by the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
They're impacted, and we're trying to help them. That is the key.
That's
anything outside of that can come to the SBDC, can come to UConn, or go to their banker for any other kind of opportunity. Sorry, I'm not being frustrated. I'm just trying to be clear.
No, that's this is good. This is good. We need to know all of this stuff, you know. The better informed we are, the better we can handle the whole situation. And now remember, this whole programs, this goes from now to December 2020. So this is not going to end this week or next week. I read that it's going to December 2020. Now, if you are going to hire your employees in October, but if we're still in this situation, dealing with the virus in October, and then you cannot hire your people, you cannot do your job, then if this is still open, now you have a case.
Connie, December 2020 will be when forgiveness happens. The program actually closes in June for application.
Oh, really?
So understand, it closes in June. So we have a couple of months to get these applications in and get funded. Again, the idea is to get it moving quickly. The forgiveness period starts at the end of the year.
Oh.
Yeah, if you look at the application on page 2, the certifications, it kind of will let you know, you have to check the boxes. And if you don't check the boxes, you can't apply.
Oh, okay, perfect.
As Bob was saying,
Mm-hmm.
Follow the certification questions. Each applicant should look at that carefully. And if they can check the boxes, they can apply.
That's perfect. This is great. Okay, I have no more questions in our chat. Let's move forward the PowerPoint and then continue with the session. Okay, so do you want to say something else about the unemployment insurance, Howard?
No, the unemployment, just the unemployment benefits have been extended, and they're going to get up to $600 a week, which is the PowerPoint points it out. So
okay. So now, Howard,
there are a couple of other things that the government is doing. Basically, of course, I think everybody's heard that the extension of filing your personal income tax returns went from April 15th to July 15th without any penalty or interest on any balance due of taxes that were due on April 15th. So that's a nice thing. There's also some elements of borrowing from retirement plans that are not subject to the mandatory withholding. So you can go to your 401k if you needed money and borrow money from your 401k in certain instances and not have to pay, if you're still in your 30s and 40s, not have to pay the early distribution penalty of 10%. And also there's, I lost my train of thought, but they're easing up the ability to borrow up to $100,000 from your retirement plans.
with no penalty?
With no early distribution penalty and no mandatory withholding.
So I have a question from Nico. It says, you say you will get up to 600 for unemployment, but I thought everyone will get a minimum of 600 plus unemployment pay. Yeah, so everybody's gonna get their checks, everybody's gonna have like, if you make less than $75,000, you're gonna get your $1,000.
It's an additional $600.
Yeah, it's an additional. This is an additional $600 on top of
Whatever the states.
Right? Yeah, this is different. We're not talking about the check that we're gonna get, the $1,200.
$1,200? No.
No.
That's based upon your adjusted gross income
yes.
from the last tax return that you filed.
And that's different from this.
Yeah,
now,
one is unemployment and one is just a stimulus check that's going out to everybody's bank account. The federal government wants everybody to have electronic filing of this money into their personal bank accounts. So they're asking people to go and register with their routing number and their account number for either their savings or their checking account, so the money can be distributed faster than mailing a check. But if people receive Social Security benefits, the government does have some banking information for direct deposit on most recipients.
I guess my question is, so I have 2 small businesses and their weekly checks are less than what they would get as unemployment. So I'm trying to figure out the best route for the employees, and I don't have much overhead. So this is all just based on getting them money. So I'm not sure where to push them, because it seems like unemployment, they would be receiving more money
Money, that's right.
than PPP.
Yep.
So is that the route that I should be going for that?
Not only that, but you're not obligated in any way on their unemployment benefits as their employer. And so, you know, this grant may take place through the PPP program, but it may not take place depending upon your mathematics at the end of the year.
And the forgiveness, yeah. So each business owner, you're right, has to make that critical decision.
It is a commitment.
Yeah, and make a critical decision. Do we do it as the business and get the 8 weeks, and it may or may not be forgiven based on the math, as Howard said? Or is it better for my employees to go out and independently? That's kind of and I think that's one of the reasons why the way the government set this up, it gives a lot more options. Now, it gives some ambiguity to the situation, but it puts the power in the hand of the business owner themselves as to what they're going to do.
I guess my next question to follow up with that is, most of my employees have a second job. And if that second job is going for the PPP route, but I'm going to go for an unemployment route, where do they fall? Because they went through the application for doing unemployment, but when they got to the job verification where they had to put in that second job, it cut them out. They couldn't go any further because they had to mark that they were still working part-time somewhere else. How do they go for unemployment then?
Actually, the PPP will not cover part-time employees, only full-time employees. Bob, can you?
That's true. And we're having that question a lot along the way, part-time and seasonal employees. And that's why there's some flexibility in the seasonality, but it's not to cover part-time or part-time employees from a PPP. So in that case, it would probably be better if everyone's part-time to look to another option.
The unemployment insurance, yes. Yeah, so let's just to recap. So only full-time employees can be benefit from the PPP. Part-time employees will apply for the unemployment insurance. Businesses that need money right away can just start the process with the SBDC with Tom, $50,000 loan with no interest and goes to 12 months. And Bob, you want to say something?
Just so you know, I'm going to have to run. There's 400 people in line already for me to follow up on right this moment. So I apologize for having to cut out early. I'll take any other quick questions, but I'm about at the end of the Truist phone has, like I say, only so many clients. So any other quick questions, and then I got to run.
Yeah, Bob, thank you.
I have one other quick question, and that is with regard to the unemployment compensation as well as the PPP. Connie, I heard what you were saying about strategizing and taking this time to work on the business. Might it be a good idea to furlough, allow them to take unemployment, apply for the PPP, and bring them back in a few weeks once there's a game plan?
That is a possibility. Again, we're so new into this, Kimberly, that we're not sure. But as long as the payrolls, they equal out at the end on the forgiveness point, as it stands right now, that seems like a way, because some people have been laid off for a month already. I mean, you got to imagine there were some businesses, especially in the restaurant and the entertainment side of things, that have been closed for a month. So some of those people are already on unemployment. Some of the goals was to get them back employed. But this is the question. If you're employed and you're getting a check, but we can't have 72 people in a restaurant doing what you're talking about. So there's some ambiguity in this, and I'm sorry to say, but I'm not exactly sure on that. I've got a lot of answers, but that's not one of them.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Any other questions for Bob before he leaves?
How would we get an answer for something like that?
Well, I will say that that's a good idea to do what Kimberly suggests, because you need to do what you need to do. I mean, I think it's a good idea for them, for your employees to apply for unemployment right now, and once you get the money from the PPP, bring them back. I think that's the best idea I have here during the webinar. And you know, you're the small business owner, you know what you need, you know how your business is suffering right now, and you know how your employees are suffering as well. You know, some of them cannot even pay rent. You know, I mean, we need to be creative, and we need to know how can we help everybody. And I think that is the best way to do it. Just do it, Kimberly, you know. And then once you get the PPP or other assistance program, bring your employees back and start thinking about ways to keep them busy. You know, now if you are a restaurant owner and you've been closed, well, let's put the website up. They start doing catering and do what other restaurants are doing. They're open for takeouts, right? So those are the kind of things that the government want. It's like, please continue working, continue keeping the economy up, because we don't want the whole country to be closed down, because that's going to be a disaster in the future. Okay, so I have a question from Nico. Thank you so much. I couldn't find in the bill, will businesses unemployment rate go up because of this virus? Oh, can you read this? Okay, so we have another question from Nico. Okay, Zach.
It says, I couldn't find the bill. Will businesses' unemployment rate go up because of this virus if employees file? So the unemployment rate.
Well, basically, the unemployment rate is based upon how many employees collect unemployment insurance. You know, so historically, unemployment rates do go in the state of Florida. The maximum rate is 2.7%. So it's not going to exceed that amount of money on each employee, and it's $189 per employee for the year. So, you know, historically in Florida, rates go up. I would assume every other state works the same way.
So then I have another question from Carlos Angel. It says, to clarify, 1099s, contractors, interpreters, then go through PPP?
They can go to PPP, but they have to wait another couple of days because it hasn't opened up yet. So it's opening up. The notes that I have is April 10th, but I think Bob said the 15th, based on the latest release.
It may 10th or the 15th. It changed a couple times in the bill, so just keep looking at the SBA site. It will be up there momentarily.
Probably next week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.